You know what's so funny is that they're enticing everyone with like donuts, lap dances, VIP tickets. But why is there no like free gym membership, juice fast for a week? You know, none of that. It's all things that are not going to benefit you in any way. They're given away. All these little trinkets instead of anything that can benefit your health.
In Austria, you can get 30 minutes for free with a prostitute if you get the shot. Damn. This is just so wrong on so many levels. Don't do it, man. Don't. 30 minutes of your life.
Facts. So all these people connected, man. It's just all these organizations, Planned Parenthood, you name it. They're supported by these organizations who behind these organizations are people who don't mean us any good. They try to act like they're our friends. They try to act like they want to do good for us, but the whole time it's a plan to do just the opposite of what they say that they're going to do. I've seen it in action. I've seen it work. I've actually been a victim of it myself. You know what I mean? So we can't fall for these tricks.
It's just wow. Just how disconnected the masses of society really are over stupid shit like that to even be put on the radar like it makes sense.
Chris Rock disappointed me, all these celebrities, and maybe they're all paid to do all this because they're all part of the boule class and they have to do it. You know, when you're part of this group, this small network group, you have to go along with the program. And it's really sad. It's all designed for confusion, bare confusion. It's just a pure mockery.
My philosophy is yes, no later than November for most of the country, probably with the exception of Texas and Florida. I believe there will be another outbreak, and I do believe the blame will lay on those who choose not to get vaccinated.
The government's first tactic is to instill fear. Through fear, you can control people.
Fear is a main factor that drives your economy, and
fear forces the ignorant.
I feel the effects. I'm sure you guys do too. Imagine being a kid or a teenager now. Add this component of mask. It's perpetuating a fearful and sheep-like mentality. These kids are going to grow up feeling afraid of human touch and only exist behind their computer learning, and it's really wild.
It has psychological effect where you wearing a mask, it's literally preparing you for this culture that's coming up, where they will be telling you what to do, and you will be following it without talking, without whatever, because your mouth is being manipulated. They're not going to be vocal. They'll be zombies. They'll be puppets of their system.
Such an interesting conversation being had. I have a high schooler, and it's been a very interesting time in her life. She's like an athlete as well, so there's just different pressure on them. She plays lacrosse, and her school's been actually really great about not forcing the kids to wear masks when they play sports because they just don't feel like it's safe. I know it's been like a lot of parents have had some issues with that, but I know my daughter and her friends, just recently I had them in my car taking them to a game, and they were talking about the vaccinations and how, like, one of the girls, her mom's a doctor, and she was saying, like, yeah, I was telling my mom, like, my teachers were talking to us about it, like, really encouraging about how socially, if you're doing it, you're, like, thinking of others, and it was building them up in such this way that, like, my daughter was like, I don't want it, and I almost felt like I'm a bad human if I don't get it.
At 5, baseball legend and Mobilian Hank Aaron receiving the first dose of Moderna's vaccine today. Aaron, along with former UN Ambassador Andrew Young and former Health and Human Services Secretary Louis Sullivan, getting their shots in the Morehouse School of Medicine in Atlanta.
Doing something like this, it's just a small thing that can help zillions of people in this country.
This is Karen Greer in the CBS 46 studios, and we are breaking in with some very sad news. This morning, CBS 46 on top of breaking news that Major League Baseball Hall of Famer Hank Aaron has died. He's known as the Home Run King.
There almost taking away their ideas that they have free choice and a free will.
Lee Dundas, human rights attorney. Late last week, I am informed a meeting occurred between Orange County Health Officer Dr. Clayton Chow and Orange County Board of Education Superintendent Al Maharz, during which time they apparently tried to find a way to, quote, sidestep and entirely remove informed parental consent for the COVID vaccine and also turn Orange County school campuses into vaccination centers. The COVID-19 vaccine is an experimental medical protocol authorized under the Emergency Use Authorization Act, and as such, you cannot mandate it for anyone, nor can you sidestep informed consent. There is a reason that kids cannot smoke, drive, drink, have sex, vote, or die for this country, and it is because the law says they lack the capacity to understand those decisions, and that applies here more than ever. Hear me loud and hear me well. We will not be morphing our school campuses into COVID vaccine centers for delivery of an experimental medical protocol that killed every damned ferret in the last animal study they did, until such time they had to abandon that study, and then they didn't even do the study this time around because we are the study.
I'm not like an anti-vaxxer, and I don't care what people choose. Like I said, everyone should be able to make decisions for themselves. But on this one, it just makes me nervous that it got made so fast. That, like, I don't know. There's just so many unknowns, and as a mom, I don't want to do unknowns on my child.
I don't want to dive too much into my theories and whatnot, but I will say this: there are lots of parents in this audience. I would be fearful if we continue wearing these masks. I have not put one on, I don't think, once. I've traveled a whole pile of places. Never once have I been stopped. Nothing's been closed down. In the UK, I never even got my passport stamped. They just let me walk on through. So I don't know. And then you get to the hotel room, and obviously you turn on BNN or BCC or whatever it was, and there's hazmat suits on, and the guys in the airports are testing everybody. It was not like that at all. I think they closed the airport at 2 a.m. and just put on a staged event and filmed some episode of whatever, ER.
Slightly different here to in the US. We've been very lucky if we're obviously talking about COVID and vaccines. We're just about to have Melbourne go through another lockdown. We've only had 6 cases there. That's the stark difference to what you guys are facing. And I think, there's a big pushback on the vaccines here in Australia as well. There's a lot of negativity around the AstraZeneca in particular. And I think the pushbacks are also coming because obviously we haven't had the amount of cases here. I think as parents, it's educating our children to look outside the box and challenge what they're seeing in the press and our politicians and governments. And I know with my 3 daughters, they're all adults now, they definitely do that and have round-table conversations surrounding what's going on in the world. And we've had conversations around the vaccine. My middle daughter is actually a paramedic, so she's been nominated to get the vaccine here in phase 1, and she's decided not to get it from her research, which is her decision, as has my eldest daughter as well. They've both said that, look, at this stage it's not mandatory and we're not wanting to go ahead and get it, but we support anybody who does. So that's sort of what's happening here in my world.
The vaccine, I just don't know. I've heard some case studies where they're showing that there was like a raise in miscarriages, and while I'm not worried about that for myself anymore, but like for her, I don't want to give her a vaccine that like there's no proof, there's no long-term studies. You can say you're following science on something, but how can you follow science on something that's brand new, that's being tested? How do I know that that's not going to affect her? There were so many vaccines, like back in the day when my parents and my grandparents were younger, that showed up years later to have like bad side effects and like long-term side effects. So it just makes me super nervous.
They're calling this a vaccine. How can they call this a vaccine? It is not a vaccine. It is a shot. When you receive a vaccine, the vaccine will stop whatever there is. It stopped it in its tracks. You could not contract that after you receive that vaccine. This is not a vaccine. This is a shot, because you can still get the COVID even after having this shot.
You're not supposed to be in these injections they're falsely calling vaccines. What are they going to do to somebody? What are they going to do to a child?
It's horrific.
I started crying when I saw these, second time under the microscope, because it was confirmation of everything I saw the first time.
If I were
What will
looking
happen?
into a microscope at something that I was told was a vaccine to promote health and safety, and some self-aware tentacle-equipped creature started moving, I would probably run out of the laboratory. I mean, that's just me. I'm not scared of a lot, but that is scary that is going.
The last time humans launched a plan like this to conduct experimental medical protocols on vulnerable populations was in Joseph Mengele's direction. He was an MD known as the Angel of Death. Okay, and he was part of the SS, and in 1943 he was assigned to Auschwitz, where he saw an opportunity to conduct gene research, quote, focused primarily on children with no regard for the health or safety of the victims. This is off the internet, you can Google it. You know what else is gene research? Experimental COVID vaccines with the trans gene inside of it. If you don't believe me, go pull the EUA application for the J&J shot. I come from a long line of Eastern Europeans, Hungarians, and Romanian groups that fled the persecution of the Red Terror communist death squads in the early 1900s, and those of us who didn't make it to America ended up facing the Nazi death squads in the lesser-known Holocaust that was the Romani Holocaust. There is a reason my daughter is named Katya.
Look at Facebook, how they censor people, and they're probably censoring the people with the high IQs that could cause riots and things like that.
100%. They always try to silence anyone who could, take over this positional of power. This is what I call it. I look at cops, and in some cases, I've called bosses of mine abusers of positional power.
People came into the room after that 500 people in the room came on Clubhouse, and they came and reported the room. And, of course that's what happened. Yes. Like that's exactly what happened.
Did any of you receive any messages on DM, kind of threatening messages that don't give medical advice? Okay.
Yes.
So I did earlier.
You've been shadow banned or blocked on Instagram for talking about COVID or, talking about the whole agenda, right? They could easily link that to your, using your VPN, they can easily link that to your Clubhouse.
You have to turn it off on Instagram. You have to turn that feature off so it doesn't actively send that information to under security and under the tab where it says active apps, and you could just stop sending two-way information. That's very easily done.
3 people out of 5 people living in the same house would have COVID. The other 2 sharing the same space didn't. And this is I've asked all the people I know that got it. And the ones that I found that actually got it had previous flu vaccines, and the other ones never had the vaccines.
There was a study on the Marines, and they found out if you got the flu vaccine, they're more susceptible to coronavirus.
Information from the CDC tonight is turning crucial things we were told about COVID upside down. The CDC revealing tonight that 74% of COVID cases in Barnstable County, Massachusetts, home to Provincetown, where there was a recent outbreak, were found in people who were fully vaccinated. And they say now that the vaccinated are just as likely to spread the virus as those who are not vaccinated.
That's got to be one of the smartest things I've heard so far. I never thought of that, and you are so right. How many people got the COVID or had that flu vaccine? That is just something none of us ever thought about. So,
well, that's interesting because I'm 68. I'm not your normal 68. I'm the new 35, 68. And I've never, ever had the flu shot, ever. When I've never had the flu, and I don't get colds, and I'm O positive. I don't know if there's any correlation there, but...
Margie again, and I have to respond to that because I've not taken a flu shot. I have not taken a shingle shot. I don't believe in...
Any of those shots, they want you to take. When you're a certain age, they want you to take all these shingles and this and that. I've never had any of those shots, ever.
Me either. And the other thing is I don't get the flu. So that's very interesting that you bring that up. So, and the other thing that I had to mention too, which I didn't mention before, was
corrupt politics, corrupt medical cartel, medical malpractice. It's just a complete mockery. When you know you're on God's path and you're doing the right thing, The truth has no agenda. There is no stopping us. No stopping us at all.
A very powerful point that was made is that we are already being divided and separated with so many things, and now it's kind of like you're getting vaccinated or you're anti-vax and just additional labels. And I just want to throw out the word compassion, because I know many people, they're literally in fear for their life just because they're watching the mainstream bullshit. I mean, it's constant messages just coming through, millions of them. I mean, that's all you hear about all day. I have my notifications off, but every time I look at my phone, there's still like BuzzFeeds and CNN and all this shit popping up, and I'm like, how do I even make it stop? But they're getting all these messages that have them very fearful. They're acting out of a place of fear. You know, in times like that, we're going to be faced with people like that. So I just kind of wanted to, throw out a reminder that compassion for that is probably a good place to meet them, it's like where they are. And we can't really change opinions, but I will always be vocal about my beliefs.
When you're so ignorant, I can't be empathetic with you. There's a lot of people in the world that are stupid, but they're kind, right? Those are people you can enlighten or, share knowledge with. If you're a dummy and your father's a racist and you sign up, let's just say, to be a cop, and then all your colleagues are racist, you don't know how to think for yourself.
There's a lot of things that are concerning in schools right now. As like a mom, like every day I'm like, so what are you guys talking about in school? Like, because I want to know, are they encouraging them in something that I don't believe in and that we don't believe in as a family and that she doesn't want to believe in? Like, I've never even pushed my beliefs on my daughter because I believe that everyone should make their own choices for their life. There's just so many more like things that are like scary for parents, I think, like even with the masks. I saw so many videos where they would show a little kid wearing a mask and then like how easy it was to hide their identity, like in a kidnapping type situation.
It's not public information, but I had a call last night with an associate of mine, and he has worked very closely with Dr. Fauci and the team that created the measurement of how you test for coronavirus, right? There's over 400,000 different strains. I'm on my second time getting COVID, and when I tell you I couldn't be more paranoid, I was fucking wearing gloves and an N95 in February. I got COVID.
Did you get the vaccine?
No, I won't get it because I'm not a fucking human experiment.
The World Health Organization has just released their guiding document for a digital vaccine passport, a digital vaccine certificate that is blockchain based. So it's going to be connected to blockchain and cryptocurrency. And of course, this is funded by none other than Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Rockefeller Foundation. Remember when we thought it was a conspiracy theory to tie all of them together and saying they're all in on this conspiracy together? Well, it's no longer. They're out there in the open. So when we also said that it's going to be a problem if you try to buy or sell and you don't take this mark, this jab, we were also tossed in the crazy category, but this is actually true. This is actually happening because people are trying to fake their passport because God forbid they want to actually keep their job or have their children sent to school without getting the VAB, but that's not going to be able to happen anymore. You know, those people selling fake IDs in Tijuana, this isn't going to actually go through because they're going to make sure that you are tied to your currency, blockchain, and cryptocurrency to be tied to your vaccination status. And of course, this was called the patent number 060606. Can't make this up, 060606. That was his patent number. And this was in March 2020, conveniently happening. Then in 2014, just to add to this, add fuel to the fire, he filed another patent. And this was for a biometric chip that's going to control your birth control and be connected to your vaccine status and be connected to your cryptocurrency. And the birth control is going to be with a remote control. There's going to be a remote control birth control. Who's got that remote? Probably Bill Gates. But this was funded by Bill Gates. This has actually happened now. He's already developed the technology to connect birth control with your cryptocurrency with your biometric data, meaning your body heat activity and your health. So if you cough or if you've got anything other than a 98-degree temperature, you're probably not going to be able to buy or sell.
You have COVID now?
Yes.
Take please gargle with 3% hydrogen peroxide several times a day. Gargle with it, snort it up your nose a little bit with water diluted, pour it down your ear. It cannot get past that ear, nose, and throat. Do that peroxide like I tell you. But if you already have it in your lungs, it's going to be difficult.
No, I'm good. I went to the hospital. It's considered amongst these groups not a virus but a disease, which I think I said to Kimberly earlier, because it's not necessarily.
What is the disease?
It affects your. Hold on, let me pull this up for you, because I don't want to. It's an endothelium disease. So basically, it causes severe inflammation long term. So the virus is the symptom to a long term.
Jay said it swells up his heart and it bursts.
Basically, but it could be your lungs, your...
Not necessarily burst and saying you get a heart attack because there's so much going on. Swelling.
So, exactly. So there's two drugs that, certain people are taking. One is ivermectin, an anti-inflammatory, anti-parasitic, and whatever else it is. And you take it kind of like a Z-Pack, right? So but this is the better alternative to getting the vaccine. It controls the inflammation that COVID causes long term.
Well, what city are you in?
New York.
Okay, so I am a natural doctor and I have 1,600 patients. Many are vaccinated. Just to give you a little bit of backstory about my credibility. What I've seen so far and what I've learned is all information from physicians, medical physicians, natural physicians, and also immunization of virology doctors, things like that, and then also nurses. So what I'm about to share with you is the first vaccine, the second vaccine, and then the boosters and what it does to your body. The first vaccine, as it goes into your body, it has a small amount of saline and then a bunch of ingredients that are very catastrophic to your cellular system. What that does to your immune system, which is your bone marrow, your thymus gland, your spleen, and all other systems associated with your immune system, it decreases the ability.
America, a video of a woman suffering convulsions after receiving a coronavirus jab has fanned safety fears. You may find the images coming up now disturbing. Brent Griner's mother received the Pfizer vaccine. This was in Louisiana at the start of January. According to her son, she hadn't experienced any kind of health issues prior to having the shot. Griner described his mother's condition in an exclusive interview with RT.
She said that the day afterwards she woke up with a headache, and she's had the headache every day since until today. Today's the first day she hasn't had a headache, but she started noticing the seizure-like movements in her leg, in her left leg first, and it was 3 days afterwards, and she was admitted to the hospital about 4 days with she had no control over her legs when she was trying to walk. Doctors said they think it's the metals in the vaccine that is causing her to have the neurological reaction.
Ever since I took that fucking shot, I got the Johnson & Johnson shot. I got that vaccine, Shawnette. It messed me up bad.
I got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine yesterday with chest pain and paralysis on my left side. I've had about 8 seizures in the last 2 days. Never had a seizure before.
On Monday, I was a very functioning person. 0 medical issues. I work every day. I've been a CNA for 25 years. And I love my patients. I love my job. I got the COVID vaccine, the Moderna, on January the 4th. On Tuesday, I had mild flu-like symptoms. I went to work. Stomach pains and diarrhea, some, on Tuesday, normal flu-like symptoms. Wednesday, I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't able to go to work.
My name is Christy Simmons. First of all, I would like to say that I am a registered nurse. I took the COVID vaccine to protect patients and my fellow co-workers. I took it a week and a half ago. It'll be 2 weeks this coming Tuesday. I've had tremors for the last 3 days.
We've heard thousands of people speak in the last 24 hours. I want to thank everyone for being civil and respectful. The policy and the stance that we take, I repeat, am not against vaccination, nor am I spewing anti-vax information. My stance is anyone can take the shot that would like to take the shot. Consult your doctor that you trust. I only ask that the same courtesy is given to those of us who, for whatever reasons it may be, do not want to be vaccinated. I don't think it is a hard ground to meet on, especially since, from what we understand, it does not eradicate the virus. It is only supposed to mitigate those problems if you contract the virus. Therefore, if the vaccine does its job, you should be feeling good when you take it. And you should also feel good. It doesn't matter if your neighbor doesn't take it, if it's doing its job.
I had tremors for the last 3 days. I have been to 4 ERs and have been discharged, stating that I need to follow up with neurology.
Great-grandmother was Katerina Choma, and I, for one, have not forgotten the lessons of our history. The Third Reich did not end with experiments on children, nor when those children died. The Third Reich ended in 1946, when we put the doctors who committed these human experiments on trial in Nuremberg, and then we put them to death. It ended with the adoption of the Nuremberg Code, so we would never repeat the sins of history. And it states, and I quote, "The voluntary consent of this human subject is absolutely essential. Dr. Chow obtained a subject's informed consent by imprisonment in county jail for 1 year, or the imposition of a $50,000 fine, or both. Through the planned insertion of experimental gene-altering protocols onto the very children you were elected and charged with protecting." And tonight we are asking the Board of Education for an immediate letter of censure to these individuals. And if they don't resign, for an immediate notice of termination. And that letter also needs to go to the professional boards, because they have no business being in these positions. So help me God, the people of Orange County will hold this policy to account.
So we look at death different. Right? We understand it is transformational and it's inevitable, so we might as well talk about it and get used to it.
That's right.
Because your fear of it is what has you locked down in this particular prison.
That's right.
You understand? But if you're able to free yourself up, they say if you find something to die for, then that's when you start living.
That's when you start living.
You know what I'm saying?
Right
but
there.
The fear of death, got you what? How do you fit an 8-foot person in a 4-foot cage? You understand? Yeah, you frozen. You're making yourself small to make other people comfortable, because they done fed you this paradigm or this false negative about what death entails. Right? So you're scary. They got people stacked on top of bodies stacked on top of bodies. They the year before, the conversation was organ harvesting. But now you can't see your folks. Right? Now you can't even attend a funeral. They was throwing people in the furnace. They was giving people urns with ashes back. Like, here go your folks. And the shit was even taking time. They wasn't even giving them right back. So they totally desecrated and decimated, right, the institution of death. And Kemet in particular, the first 72 hours was the most important. You wasn't even supposed to touch the body. That's where this whole aspect of embalming and all of that comes from. You wasn't even supposed to touch the body for the first 72 hours. That's where laying in state comes from. The fact that they sit your ass under a rotunda, right? Representing the cosmos, so your soul can drift back to it from whence it came, right? These cosmic constellations, okay? Them understanding that Sirius is where the souls drift to.
That's
so
right.
This country is lined up, right? To coincide with that. This is the whole country is a cemetery. Again, not understanding the institution of death, taking the sting out of death is what we need to do so we can embrace it, right? Once you take your fear out of it, then it has no longer conquered you, but you conquered it.
Right,
I can't
you
wait.
master it.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm not in a rush. You feel me?
Right.
But I'm not scared either because I'm waiting for this. I know my fucking party's gonna be off the chain when I go through them gates. What do I have to fear? I did the work. So